What's going on, everybody? It's TripleCrown24 back today to do a card show recap. It's been a while since I've done one. This recap will be for the Asheville, North Carolina show back on December 4th, 2021. A Saturday show, the most I've ever traveled by car to set up at a show. I think it's in a tie for the national, I guess, for longest I've actually traveled for a show by car. But setting up is a bit of a different ball game because you got to take the showcases, the value boxes, all the cards that you're selling. It's a bit of a different endeavor than just going to the national. It was a good time. I'm kind of going to do a different format for this one. So I don't have any clips of the show itself. The reason that I don't is just because I really like to immerse myself in the show. I don't like to have my phone out constantly recording stuff. I like to kind of engage and speak to the dealers and the people there rather than getting the clips. So hopefully you'll understand that. But I do have a new format for these that I think will give a better idea of how the show was rather than some of my old recaps. So let's just talk about the show overall. My overall impressions of it was that it was a good show. I would call it a great show if it was a little bit more local, but having to drive 6 hours there and back. And I did the drive where I went there on Friday night and came back on Saturday night. So that was a lot of driving. That was, of course, my own decision. So maybe I'd rank it a little higher if I if I hadn't done that. If I saved the extra night, maybe it was a 2-day show, whatever the case may be. But that was my decision. That's no fault to anyone else. But it was a good show. If it was more local too, that would have been cool if I lived a little closer. But the nice thing is that traveling to kind of a different region, you get to meet some new people. You also get to meet some older friends as well. And I got to meet up with a few people who I knew from previous shows. And then I also got to meet Jake, the Ticket Leprechaun, as he was formerly known. Now on YouTube as Legends Never Die. Fantastic channel, fantastic member of the community. So it was really fun to hang out with him. He will have a recap that does have clips of the show. I know that we shot a little video together. So definitely go check out his channel if you kind of want to see some footage of the show. I don't know when his recap video will be up, but at least go check out his channel. Give him a subscribe if you enjoy his content. But overall, it was a good show. I'm sure you guys want to see what I picked up, and I'm going to get to that right now. So I have 3 separate pickups, or 3 separate, I guess you can say, stacks, because that's the number of deals that I made in terms of buying cards. Definitely did a lot more selling than I did buying. And actually, I forgot to move one of the cards over here I had set aside. So there were actually 4 deals that I made. Apologies for that. Let me go ahead and start off with the purchases. So 3 purchases and 1 trade in this one. The first one up, I'm going to take these out of the top litters because the top litters are, they're not the best top litters. They're starting to yellow a little bit. Get those in some fresh ones here. Got to treat this Megatron that I picked up with some care. So 2011 Topps Chrome. If you are a Lions fan or you're a football fan in general, then you probably know what this picture is from or what play this was from. One of the many blunders in recent Lions history, although they did win today as of the day I'm recording this, first one of the year. But this is number 299. It does have a few little scratches on the surface, but really I don't see too many of these that don't have these scratches. When these came out, these colored refractors just weren't really as valued as they are in today's hobby world. People didn't take as good care of them back then. So a lot of times you will find them with little scratches, and it doesn't really mind. I don't really mind it too much. It's just comes with the territory of buying those raw. I was more so interested in picking up this card here. So the Megatron will be one that I kind of stash away for a bit. This one I will potentially look at to send off. It definitely is not a gem-worthy card, if you will, because it does have this edge issue on the top here on the back. And typically when I'm going through a dealer showcase or their cards and I see that they have a lot of graded stuff, and then you see something like this raw, it does beg the question of why is it left raw? Sometimes it may just be that PSA hasn't accepted bulk submissions for almost 3/4 of a year now. And on a lot of the newer stuff, that is most definitely the case. Sometimes people just didn't feel like it was worth it. Sometimes people just don't grade. But of course, if they do have graded cards, that's a likely indicator that they do grade. So I knew when I saw this one, there was a reason why this person didn't send it in slabbed, because Tatis has been a hot player for a while now. But not every card needs to be slabbed. Sometimes you can get a really good deal on a raw card here, and that was the case here. This was less than the cost of a blaster. And I knew that if I were to find a blaster in this at SRP, I would take it. So get a nice little silver prism there. Rookie year Tatis card with the Megatron. Nice little bundle deal that I was able to make on those. Next one up, this was a solo card purchase. I'm going to take it out of the team bag because the price is written on the back of the team bag here. I'm going to put a new Superior Fit sleeve on it, but it is a 2019 Revolution Astro Zion Williamson in a PSA 10 holder. I looked at this. Revolution is a product that I have to admit was introduced to me by a few friends, just because it's not a standalone baseball release. It's been a standalone basketball release for a few years. Football, they've kind of if it has been a release, it's been one of those lower tier releases. So being that I haven't really followed basketball too closely until recent times, it's one that I've kind of overlooked for all this time. And I have really enjoyed picking these up over the past number of, I guess, even years now. So the Astro is the most common of the parallels. Usually they have this shimmer, or kind of the pattern that you see on the retail foil boards with tops. I think there's a bunch of different names that the companies have for them, but that's usually what the shine is on the base design, where the Astro is these stars. Typically they're like one per hobby pack, I believe, on Revolution. I don't think that they make retail of this. I could be wrong, because it seems like they make a retail of everything these days, but I'm pretty sure still in 19 it was hobby exclusive. So hobby packs of this were never really cheap. Even though it is probably one of the cheaper products out there, still not cheap to get a hobby pack. And the checklist, as you can see there with the rookies, is over 100 subjects, typically 150 subjects. So the odds of pulling a Zion, probably about, I want to say, 25 to 30 boxes if you have perfect collation to get this specific card, and then to get it in the 10. For the price I got it at, I thought that this one was a slam dunk, no pun intended, of a guy who a lot of people have kind of turned their backs on, because he is he's been hurt. He hasn't really produced instantly and given people that instant gratification that I think a lot of us have been kind of spoiled with some of the young names in the hobby. That goes across all sports, not just basketball. So I gladly picked this up. I got this for $150 less than the last sale of it. There's not too many of these out there that have been put up for sale, so there's not a whole lot to go off of. But when I was given the price, the dealer knocked $100 off the sticker price right away, and I did not bother trying to go down anymore from there, just because I thought it was a fair deal. So it was one of those dealers who was just willing to wheel and deal, and it's definitely always appreciated. So that one will make its way to the store. You'll probably already see it in there by the time that this video goes up. Next one was a stack that I kind of put together for, I'll just go ahead and say it. It was $100 for this stack, and I was pretty happy with it. It's 5 cards here. First one up is a Mahomes. This is the Fire Blast. I'll show you here on the back, from 2020 Phoenix. I know a lot of the products from really, I guess, 18 onward, I think you could even go back to 17, are getting a lot of hate right now for the mass production. It seems that as the years have gone on from that 17 and 18 point, the hate almost grows. And I think that has contributed to some of the prices coming down. And there is some truth to it for sure. There's definitely been some increased print runs. I think if you look at pack odds with tops, you can see exactly how much that they've increased. It's no secret there's more of every single product out there. And with how much money is in the hobby right now, I don't really blame the card companies for doing so. I just hope that it never gets back to the junk wax era levels of production. It's not there right now, but hopefully with how things play out here in the next few years, it does not get to that point. But these Fire Blasts are really cool. This is one that I don't really know if I would feel comfortable sending this in to anyone besides PSA, just because with these are very susceptible to print lines. You can see it's got that hyper or prism refractor technology to it, depending if you're a Panini or a Topps fan. We'll call it Hyper since this is a Panini card. But these Fire Blasts are really cool. It works well with the Chiefs colors. So this is one of those I just didn't mind picking up. It was cheap, and it was one of those that I can just kind of hold on to because of what else I was able to get. The second card in this deal was a Trout 2013 Select. So first year of Select, a product that in terms of the mass production of things has probably received more hate and has turned off, or as more people have been turned off from it than any other product. I would just from my own observations, especially with the introduction of retail on the basketball and the football side this year. I know that they made select retail in baseball previously in the past couple of years leading up to now, but I think last year with the select basketball and select football retail, a lot of people kind of have been turned off from select, which has been interesting to see. They did make a lot of it, but this 13 select, not as much of it out there as you might think. Kind of similar to how Prism baseball was back in 2012. Also with that deal, perhaps a little hometown bias here with the Tarek Skubal RPA, the quote-unquote true RPA from this year's National Treasures Baseball there with part of the Old English D logo patch. Really cool. This one is the hollow gold parallel numbered out of 25. And when you kind of break down what the unit cost was, this did have a sticker on it, a price sticker, whereas the other cards did not. So it was kind of going in blind when the dealer made a stack, but I was actually tipped off that this dealer was really wheeling and dealing, and that was definitely the case. So I appreciate him for cutting me a deal on this one. He seemed like he had a very good show from what I could gather. There were constantly people at his table, so he was doing something right, and he had some pretty cool cards going through his boxes and display cases. Including this one right here. So nice to get a team logo patch there of Skubal. The out of 99 versions were going for more than what this one was stickered at. And then again, I got this one for less than 50% of sticker prices. So just to me, that was a no-brainer. Don't mind having that one for a while either because he's a Tiger. So a little bit of bias there. Take this one out of the team bag real quickly. A couple of slabs to go along with it. I do like to pick up slabs of this guy if they are the right price. LeBron James on the 19 Donruss, clearly a Donruss. So this is an acetate-based product. You don't get too many of these. And this is the gold. It's got the gold lettering there. So it's not numbered out of 10 like typically you associate golds with Panini products. But it is kind of it's a parallel of sorts. I believe this is the most common parallel. It's a 9. These cards are extremely sensitive with surface issues. There's a lot of times you'll see little tiny scratches on them. There might be a little bit of peeling on the foil here with the Donruss, the clearly Donruss logo. It's particularly bad in the Chronicles releases because they usually have this product in Chronicles for both baseball and football. Basketball, it was a standalone product last year. So just look at the back there, still a see-through card. And another thing I thought was funny about this is that in the deal, I think that this equated to like $15 for this card. If you look at the cert number with PSA, just based on what we've gotten back recently, I know that I just had a submission come back today, and the cert numbers were still in the 5s. Since this one starts with a 6, I'm gonna guess that this card, I know at the very minimum, this card was sent in at least at the regular service level. And based on the cert, I'd be willing to guess that this might have actually been sent in at the express level, which would be $150 a card, which in that case, I got this for 10% of the grading cost of this card. And I hope for whoever graded this, that is not true because they probably, whoever got this probably took a big hit on that, but you got to be careful what you send in. Not everything is, I think for a long time, we've been in the mentality of grade everything and it will work out. So times are changing. Here's one. This one is also appears to have been recently returned. This one was in a bulk submission though. Gold medallion, Mariano Rivera from 96. It's labeled here as a rookie. Of course, he has cards as old as 1992 Bowman. It's considered his true rookie, if you will. But this is an awesome card. I do love the gold medallions. Shout out to Nolan, Elite Cup 3. I know that he is a fan of the Fleer parallels. So this kind of gold background there looks fantastic. nice shine to it as well. Kind of as like a dull shine, but there is a little bit of shine to it. It's near mint to mint 8. I believe on this one there's only one 9 in existence, no 10s. These are extremely sensitive this year just because it's all foil, and all foil cards typically, especially when they are now 25 years old. This one was over 20 years old based on the cert number when it was graded. To have those in raw shape or raw condition for that long, a lot of them did not survive in the best of conditions. So an 8 on this one would gladly take that, because finding one raw that would grade out to an 8 is you'd be hard pressed. So those 5 cards I just showed, I know I was talking for a long time with those. That is all one purchase there. That whole stack was $100, and I was very happy with that. The last one was a trade with cash. So as I mentioned, Jake, Ticket Leprechaun, Legends Never Die. Still got to get used to that new name. He had come up to me and told me that there was a Warren Spawn rookie. Spoilers for his video. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that there. I was trying to hold it back in my head. But go watch his video. I promise. I was trying not to spoil it. But he had told me that there was this card that he really wanted, and the dealer was about $25 off from what he was willing to pay. So I went over and tried to see if there was anything that I wanted. And this is something I'll typically do if I am with someone I know or a friend at a show, whether it's another dealer or it's a friend from YouTube or a friend from outside of YouTube. I'll go up and try to see if I can bundle something together so that I can get them a better price, and then I can also get a better price on what I want. So it helps pretty much everyone involved. And then the dealer also gets to make more money because they sell more cards and get more in their sales. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation when that happens. And I probably talked to this dealer for, I want to say, probably a good 30 minutes. I didn't time it or anything, but it felt like it because we were really just digging into things, going back and forth. And what we ultimately settled on was I had to give up a decent amount of cash, still an amount that I was comfortable with, still definitely amount that was less than, or I put less into these cards than what they were worth, and I'm very happy with what I got. So I also had to give up my Yastrzemski Venezuela tops that I got at the National, and unfortunately, but also fortunately, because it got me these really cool cards, I did depart with the legendary dollar mantle card. If you haven't heard of that story before, I did a video on it a couple of years ago, but that was something I did depart with. I got 3 cards back in return. The one that I just mentioned before, you can go see that over on Jake's channel if you want to see more about it, and he'll tell you more about it as well. Also got these 2 cards back. You can't go wrong with the Hall of Fame rookie ever, in my opinion, including this one right here, 75 tops, Robin Yount. It's a good plus 2.5. It looks like it. This one probably graded, I want to say, in like 2018 or 19 based on the cert number there. So back when you could get some of these Hall of Famers in low grade, or you could get it done yourself on the cheap. And I think that there's definitely a market out there. If you want to own one of these cards, there is low grade examples available. So if you've always wanted to own a Yount rookie, for example, this one I will be making available. And they're out there for fairly reasonable prices. You don't have to be a big spender to get some of these classic cards, or maybe a card that you've always wanted, or build a collection of Hall of Fame rookies. And I think that this card right here is a good example of that. It's fairly well centered for 75 tops. It does have a bit of a diamond cut, as you can see there, but again, it's a 2.5. You're going to have to make some compromises on it. The back is incredibly nice. I don't really care too much for card backs. I don't pay too close of attention to them, but just wanted to point that out because it is definitely a positive with this card, and I was happy to have it. The centerpiece of the deal on my end, though, was undoubtedly this one, and I thought this dealer, when he told me what he valued this card at, it was on the low end anyways, because this, in my opinion, was a comic card, and he did not value it at a comic card. It was close, but not quite. And if you saw it on Twitter, you know exactly what it was. 1951 Bowman Ted Williams. Excellent to mint 6. In a older generation PSA holder, you can see there, pre-Lighthouse, pre-hologram. There is a little mark here. I don't know if that's on the slab or if it's on the sleeve. You can't see it because I got the glare. There it is right there. But I am going to switch out this superior fit sleeve. I always do like to replace the sleeves, even if they do give me a superior fit one, just because I like to have my own sleeve on it. I'm kind of weird in that way. But this is just a beautiful card. And looking at it, it presents incredibly well. That's what I love about vintage is that with the grades, you really never know exactly what you're going to get. You know, someone can say, and I told a few people that I got this card, but when I say PSA 6 Ted Williams 1951 Bowman, you don't really know what it looks like until I tell you that. Whereas some of the more recent cards that have come out in an 8, 9, or 10, there's probably not a huge difference in them. You know, so we say this all the time. Some nines could easily pass for tens, and some tens could easily pass for nines. But at first glance, this Ted Williams is absolutely beautiful, and at second glance, it's just as beautiful. So this one will be going up into the store. In fact, it will already be up in the store, but I am just absolutely thrilled to have picked this one up. Shout out to Bowman 1951. I know I thought of him when I got this card, and he had a funny little comment for me over on the Twitter when I showed it off there. So that was the pickups. I know I kind of rambled about that, but I wanted to give an in-depth look at kind of why I made some of the purchases I did. Let's talk more about the show in general. What was hot and what was not. Name I was asked about most often is probably not the name you would be expecting if you want to take a guess. It was Tom Brady. After that, Mac Jones was certainly a popular name. A lot of the local interests were popular. LaMelo Ball, of course, LaMelo is going to be popular anywhere, but we were in North Carolina, several hours away from Charlotte, but still, there's definitely a lot of Hornet fans in the area. So LaMelo Ball was popular. It does make sense. Also, a lot of people asking about Christian McCaffrey. I pretty much sold out of my Christian McCaffrey cards because a lot of other dealers there, from what I saw their stuff priced at, were definitely putting a lot of value into the local interest on CMC. I like him a lot, but I don't know about some of the prices I was seeing at this show. So that they were very highly asked about. Number one out there would be just in general soccer cards. Had several people come up and ask about soccer, which was very interesting. I'm still trying to learn more about soccer. I'm very much a novice. I heavily rely on other people to kind of give me the information. I don't know why my light is flickering there in the background. Gonna have to check one of the lights out there in the hallway. But in general, just a lot of people were interested in soccer. And I did see a lot of soccer cards out for sale as well. Some older soccer too. I didn't really get a chance to negotiate on those, but I was interested. And I also just don't know enough to really confidently walk up and make some kind of deal. So kind of saved my funds for some different cards. And that ultimately was beneficial because I wouldn't have made the Ted Williams deal had that not have happened. So that was definitely hot. What was not hot? So things that you might expect to be hot. Really, a lot of the basketball names you've heard in recent times, not as many people asking about them. So yes, LaMelo Ball was asked about, but a lot of the 19 guys, some people were interested in Ja Morant still, but very little talk about Zion Williamson. Very little talk about, I guess, RJ Barrett. Very little talk about any of the names that have had any kind of popularity. Halliburton, Wiseman, Tatum. There was a lot of interest in Luka still. Luka was very much a popular guy. I got a lot of questions about my Luka cards. Anthony Edwards, not really that much. I had a couple people ask about Anthony Edwards, but a lot of those newer guys and then a lot of the newer football guys, never heard a peep about Trevor Lawrence, even though we were fairly close to Clemson. I mean, South Carolina state border was not too far away, but Clemson's still several hours away. But I noticed that there were some Clemson cards and South Carolina cards put out to, I guess, appeal to local interests. So zero talk about him. Not much talk about any of the other quarterbacks like Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, even going back a few years, Lamar Jackson. Not too many people asking about Lamar Jackson. Not too many people asking about Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Herbert, Burrow. Very little being asked about the quarterbacks. It was mostly Brady and McCaffrey on the football side. And then on baseball, really a lot of focus on the Braves, not any of the other rookies. Luis Robert, never heard his name once. So very interesting. Definitely a different pace from what I was used to seeing. And from what I was seeing, there were quite a few of those guys' cards in showcase and boxes. And the fact that they were there would suggest that people were not buying them. So that is one of my big takeaways there. What was offered on the show floor? So this is something else I want to talk about. Show floor review. What was it comprised of? There was a decent amount of vintage there. There was, I would say, graded vintage was a little bit more few and far between. There was a lot of raw vintage tables. There was also, yeah, there were some people who had graded vintage, but it felt like it was more mixed in. There were very few like vintage only tables, which I've seen fewer and fewer of those in recent times, so that it's kind of on par with that. But there was more than what has become average in recent times. This was also partially a toy show, although there weren't very many tables that were specifically devoted to toys. But you did see, I saw more like starting lineups or different action figures than you're typically used to seeing. Definitely a lot of those Funko Pop figures, a lot of sports related ones. I saw many different tables out there. Decent number of Pokemon, not as much TCG stuff in general. I did get asked about that a little bit, but not quite as popular as I've seen in recent shows. It was overall a very healthy mix, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. So, actually, I'm going to talk about it now. This is the last part of this segment I like to call the takeaways sandwich. So I'm going to say one thing I liked about the show, one thing I didn't like about the show, and then end on a positive with one more thing I liked about the show. So what's one thing I liked? Well, the attendance on this one was not as good as the previous one that was held for this specific show. It was at a new location, but those who did come in the door were there to spend. And I made very few small dollar sales. In fact, someone actually bought out my value boxes, my 5 for $1 boxes, about halfway through the show. So I didn't have those available for the second half of the show, but prior to that, very few people were going through. In fact, I only made one purchase out of them prior to that, whereas before, those were worked very heavily at the previous shows I had been set up at. So it was definitely interesting. A lot of people who were there were going to buy out of the showcases. They weren't even going to buy out of the card bins where I have like the $1 to $10 cards. They were going after some of the more expensive slabs. They were asking about some of the more expensive slabs. So definitely a different take than normal. A lot of times, a lot of those higher end cards um, are just kind of like a look but don't touch type of thing where people will ask about them, but not much happens on them. Whereas in this show, it seemed like there were some, I guess you could call big moves happening. So, what was one thing I didn't like? This is something that keeps seeming to come up whenever I do these shows, and that sellers or even people who come up to sell to me or trade with me are very afraid of taking a loss. And there seems to be this mentality that people are entitled to make money on their cards, or they just absolutely cannot take a loss on anything. And I've taken plenty of losses on things. Just the key is that you have to win more times than you lose. But it's so much like people are willing to give you stuff, quote unquote, at cost for them, but they just will not take a penny less than that. They just can't stomach losing money. And that really stopped a lot of deals, not just with me trying to buy things, but I think with a lot of people out there. And I don't know, that to me, like at the end of the day, you're not guaranteed that that card, you're going to get what you want for it at any point in time. In fact, it may start selling for even less than what it's going for right now. So, a lot of times I think that those who are fearful on taking losses, you kind of have to assess that. Like, can I do better than this? Am I willing to wait it out? And will waiting it out even be worth it? I think that's some really key questions sometimes that have to be asked. And I don't know if those questions were being asked really at this show, but we'll see how that plays out going into 2022. I'm very curious, especially as more and more slabs are put out there. I noticed that there were a lot of slabs out there where they were priced with that mentality of not being able to take a loss. People asking for cards that are fairly easy to find in PSA 9s and 10s that sell for under $30 in PSA 10 form, and they're asking $20 for their eights. It's just, or even sometimes 25 or 30 if it's the right player. And it's just, I mean, those cards were still there, so I guess they weren't selling. Let me end on a positive. One more thing I did like about the show is that people were willing to bundle. And this worked on both sides of the table. People were willing to bundle with me, as you saw there. I only made one single card purchase, and typically I do like to bundle when I make these types of purchases. It's how I have the most success is when I buy more. That's typically on the other side of the table selling things. I give my best deals when you buy more because you're spending more money with me, and I want to make sure that you come back and you're helping me out too. You're moving more products for me. So there was a lot of times where I kind of convinced people to bundle. Like there was someone who'd asked about Trey Young, and I showed him some of my other Trey Young cards, and I said, you know what, I'll cut you a deal. I can do this. There was some dude who told me that he needed some supplies, and I said, how about this? I will give you the money to go buy your supplies. You take these cards for this amount. So I was actually helping out another dealer as well make a sale on their supplies while I was getting helped out by making a deal on my cards. So that's just kind of it was a good friend of mine who I helped out there. I don't just do that with like a random stranger, but it was nice to be able to do that and just kind of bundle things together, give people an offer that they can't refuse. Basically, I had a lot of people who normally would have walked away. I think who at least really thought about it, but I most times when people say they'll come back, they typically don't come back. 9 out of 10 times it doesn't happen. Now it did happen. It actually happened once at this show. Someone came back, we made a deal for a car that they said they'll be back for. But a lot of times that's not what happens. So typically I want to make that sale before they leave the table because chances are they're not coming back regardless of what they say. But bundling things together, people were willing to wheel and deal for the most part, which I thought was great. And that's definitely healthy for a show. And that goes for both ends of the table. So that was it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed this more in-depth review of this card show. I think that I've had a lot of people tell me that they enjoy these kind of talking videos that I do, whether it be a live stream or a pre-recorded video where they can just kind of sit and listen to me talk. I know that most people, based on what analytics will show you, like maybe my 10 to 15 minute videos a little bit more. But I thought this was fun. I thought this was a good way to kind of recap the show and give you an overall view of it rather than a few little video clips. So that's it for me today. Let me know what you guys think of this new format in the comments down below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Until then, take care, stay safe, and be kind.